to a quad
to that, because let's be real, on the old WNBA front, this is the most relevant the league is going to be for the next couple of weeks, because we can be honest, during a couple of weeks Caitlin Clark is out injured. Doesn't matter what happens, no one cares.
The WNBA finds itself once again in the eye of a storm, but this time it's not about officiating controversies or rough fouls. It's about something far more concerning. Stephanie White's latest update on Caitlin Clark's injury status has sent shockwaves through the basketball world, and the tone of uncertainty in her voice suggests the situation is more serious than anyone wants to admit.
This groin injury, and how much of an absence do you expect from her beyond today?
Yeah, late last night. I think it's very much a day-to-day thing, how she responds to treatment. I stay in my lane and let our strength and conditioning and our physical, our AT staff do what they do best. But yeah, I found out late last night, and then we'll treat it day to day.
Back-to-back a factor at all with that?
I mean, I don't know if it's a factor from a physical standpoint, from an athletic training standpoint. Certainly in my mind, it is. But at the same time, she's shown that she's tough and she's a quick healer. So
the troubling reality is becoming impossible to ignore. The repeated physical targeting of Caitlin Clark throughout the season has finally taken its toll, and now the league's biggest star is sidelined with an injury that nobody saw coming, or perhaps nobody wanted to see coming.
5 seconds left. How much patience do I need to have before I can start going nuclear? Because I am getting very frustrated with what I am seeing. To everybody that said Caitlin Clark didn't look like herself, salute to you. For everybody that said Caitlin Clark might be going through something, salute to you. Clearly, you all saw what that person that stands there like this can't see. We all saw what was going on. Man, something's not right.
When Stephanie White stepped to the podium to address Caitlin Clark's sudden groin injury, what fans heard wasn't the confident reassurance they were hoping for. Instead, they witnessed a head coach who seemed genuinely caught off guard, offering vague responses that raised more questions than answers.
She reported yesterday, like, her pain in the left groin.
it had to have been at some point during the day because they took her out yesterday, for the MRI. So I'm not exactly sure. I didn't hear about it until we heard from our training staff last night.
And with the MRI, did it show a strain or anything, or?
I don't. You'll have to ask her.
Late last night, White revealed, when asked when she first learned about Clark's injury, a timeline that was nothing short of alarming. Clark had reportedly experienced pain and undergone an MRI on Wednesday, but White didn't hear about it until her training staff contacted her that evening. This wasn't the typical injury progression fans have become accustomed to seeing managed by professional organizations.
Rushed her back. And within rushing her back, she re-injured that same quad. And then he rushed her back again. And then within rushing her back, she was forced to put pressure and put stress on different areas surrounding that quad. That leads us to our most recent groin injury. I don't need a degree to think for myself. If you've ever been to the gym, you got some chest pain, next thing you know, you got some shoulder pain. Why? Because instead of using your chest muscle to do the exercises, you compensate and start using your shoulder too much.
What made White's press conference even more unsettling was her repeated admission of being kept in the dark. "I'm not exactly sure. I didn't hear about it until we heard from our training staff last night," she stated, painting a picture of a coaching staff that wasn't fully informed about their star player's condition.
She's dealing with a lot herself, right? Stephanie White. Of course, she's missed, 2 games so far because of personal issues, so I don't necessarily know what her personal issues are. Hopefully it's nothing like DeWanna Bonner's. But nonetheless, she's dealing with some things of her own, so maybe it's a tad bit difficult to keep up with every single thing that happens with her players. And then, of course, she got this news late at night, so I don't know what time this could have been. It was posted early in the morning, so, she's probably just now getting into the facility and trying to figure out what's going on with Caitlin. Let me see the MRI, what happened with the MRI. They probably caught her right before she can get all this.
The situation surrounding Caitlin Clark's current injury has taken a concerning turn, particularly when compared to how her previous quad injury was managed. In that earlier instance, Head coach Stephanie White was able to offer a level of transparency and detail that is notably absent now. During the previous setback, White provided clear updates, outlining timelines for Clark's potential return and offering insight into her recovery process. This allowed fans, media, and the team to understand the situation with a degree of certainty. However, the current update regarding Clark's injury is clouded in uncertainty, offering little comfort or clarity. This lack of concrete information suggests a more unpredictable or perhaps more serious underlying issue.
When she says you have to ask our training staff, are any of us really going to get the opportunity to actually talk to a training staff member? I don't think that actually is going to happen. So like what Stephanie White is doing right there is basically saying, I can't tell you, even if I could tell you, it's not going to be announced through me. It's going to be announced just how they announce everything else. They're going to announce it through a press conference. They're going to announce it through a press release, a tweet with the information. These organizations are very private, especially with, the injury information, because people go crazy.
Clark's groin injury didn't happen in isolation. It's the culmination of months of physical punishment that the WNBA has failed to adequately address. The timing is particularly troubling when you consider that she had just endured that controversial game against the Connecticut Sun, where she was poked in the eye by J.C. Sheldon and blindsided by Marina Mabry. Since returning from her previous quad injury on June 14th, Clark has been playing through what can only be described as a nightmare scenario. Her shooting has cratered to historically bad levels, just 1 for 23 from three-point range over her last 3 games. Clark's season low 6 points against Seattle, where she recorded more turnovers and points for the first time in her career, now looks less like a shooting slump and more like a warning sign that went unheeded.
Caitlin Clark does not need to play another game until she's completely 100% healthy. If that means she has to miss multiple weeks, so be it, because you don't want to get into the habit of her rushing back from injuries when she's not fully healthy, and we know if one nagging injury can lead to another nagging injury. So the best thing that the Indiana Fever can do, regardless of what Caitlin Clark wants to do, you have to protect your star, your superstar, because she's going to want to get on the court. But until she's 100% healthy, she does not need to play another basketball game for the Indiana.
The numbers don't lie about how Clark has been treated in the WNBA. According to documented statistics, she has been the target of an unprecedented number of flagrant fouls. 17% of all flagrant fouls in the WNBA this season have been committed against one player. When 80% of those fouls come from a single team, it stops being coincidence and starts being a pattern. The physical toll has been building since the season's opening games, from Chindi Carter's blindside body check, to the Chicago Sky's systematic targeting, to the eye-poke shove sequence against Connecticut. Clark has absorbed punishment that would have ended careers in previous eras. What makes the situation even more maddening is that the players responsible for these actions remain unpunished in any meaningful way. Marina Mabry, who delivered that devastating body check after Clark had already been poked in the eye, received nothing more than a technical foul that was later upgraded to a flagrant. She faced no suspension, no meaningful consequences, just a fine and the freedom to continue targeting the league's most valuable player.
Real talk, a lot of y'all records she coming for him. At the end of the day, y'all can't stop nothing, bro. Y'all trying to beat her up and bruise her up and take her out the game and injure her, bro. We know what the motive is, dog. Like, don't nobody like that. I don't vouch for that. I don't like that. You hear me? Y'all not leading. Look, y'all need to get that out y'all heart, cause that's some deep demonic stuff. The way y'all thinking and how y'all moving and having y'all little meetings and all of that and wanna plot against this woman and her teammates that have her back. Y'all better leave her, Sophie Cunningham.
The reaction from Clark's fan base has been swift and unforgiving. Social media has exploded with calls for her to leave the WNBA entirely, with many arguing that the league doesn't deserve her and never has. One frustrated fan expressed that if Caitlin Clark decides to quit the WNBA and move on to play in Europe, they would not blame her. Instead, they would applaud it and encourage her to get as far away from the WNBA as possible. If that move means the end of the WNBA, then let the league sink. This captures the sentiment of thousands who have watched their favorite player get systematically abused. The viewership numbers tell the story of just how dependent the WNBA has become on Clark's presence. When she was injured earlier this season, nationally televised games saw a 55% drop in ratings, from 1.81 million to just 847,000 viewers. The Fever's ticket prices crashed by 47%. She receives technical fouls for being assaulted, while her attackers face minimal consequences. The message is clear. The WNBA is more interested in protecting the feelings of veteran players than protecting the safety of its biggest star.
Just finding out this morning that probably need to hold out again today. It really is a day-to-day thing, and I think for us, making sure that we're prioritizing her long-term health and wellness. It's anybody who's had some of these types of injuries understand that sometimes it's a process. She's a quick healer, and she's been doing everything that she can to get back on the floor. So we just want to make sure that we're hypersensitive to the big picture.
Perhaps most infuriating of all is how the mainstream sports media has handled Clark's treatment. While they've been quick to celebrate her achievements and the ratings she brings, they've been notably silent about the systematic targeting she faces. The same media apparatus that stumbled over itself to cover the Caitlin Clark effect has largely ignored the Caitlin Clark targeting effect. When veteran players and analysts dismiss legitimate concerns about her safety as favoritism or special treatment, this isn't about race. It's about protecting the athletes who drive the sport forward. Tiger Woods wasn't protected in golf because he was special. He was protected because the sport recognized that its biggest stars deserve the security to perform at their highest level.
But I'm going to keep saying it. Something is going on. I don't know what it is, man, but that's uncalled for. And we can see it. I don't know if we need to look into the committee, with the higher up player, the veteran players. I don't know what we need to look at, but we need to look somewhere because
Stephanie White's uncertain tone when discussing Clark's injury should serve as a wake-up call for WNBA leadership. When a head coach can't get straight answers about her star player's condition, when that player is being systematically targeted by opponents with minimal consequences, and when the league's biggest draw is considering leaving for overseas opportunities, you have a crisis that goes far beyond basketball. The WNBA stands at a crossroads. Watching as her most valuable asset gets worn down by opponents who seem more interested in stopping her through intimidation than outplaying her through skill. They can either continue down this path of silence, or they can finally acknowledge that protecting star players isn't favoritism. It's good business and basic human decency.
Let's look at the WNBA and Caitlin Clark. Who is set to make WNBA players more money? Is it Angel Reese, the author of the Me Bound? The Me Bound that she's now going to copyright, and she's trying to get all the rights to it so she can glorify the Me Bound? Basically a made-up stat for someone who can't hit layups? No, it's not Angel Reese. Does Angel Reese help add to the legend that is Caitlin Clark? For sure. Caitlin Clark is going to print money for the
Clark's current injury status, day-to-day, with no clear timeline for return, represents everything wrong with how the WNBA has handled her treatment. While players like Marina Mabrey and J.C. Sheldon continue to play without meaningful consequences for their actions, the league's most transcendent talent sits on the sidelines, potentially considering whether this league is worth the physical punishment she endures every night. The fans see it clearly, even if the league doesn't. When Paige Buchers calls the pressure on Clark inhumane, she's not just talking about media expectations. She's talking about a system that expects a player to perform at an elite level while absorbing punishment that would sideline lesser athletes.
It is no secret that Caitlin Clark has been struggling in her shooting since coming back from injury. She had that big game right after the initial leg injury where they played the Liberty, they beat the Liberty. She had 30-something, Sabrina had 30-something. It was a fantastic game. But since then, she has been really struggling from the field. There's been reports of her maybe having her migraine issues again. There's been reports of her in interviews she's been coughing a lot and kind of sniffling, was she sick? And now she is out for tonight's game because of a groin injury. And even in her post-game interview the other night, she said, it felt good coming out of my hands and then it just wasn't going in. They feel good. They feel like typical Caitlin Clark shots. She doesn't feel like anything is different, but then they just weren't going in. And then we saw this at the end of the game the other night. It almost looks like it was her leg and ankle again. She gets up. Erica Wheeler comes and helps her. She's doing some stretching. We're like, oh, is it the ankle?
Clark will eventually recover from this groin injury, just as she recovered from her quad strain. Her shooting will return to form, and her assist numbers will climb back to their typical levels. But the real question isn't when she'll be physically ready to return. It's whether the WNBA will be ready to protect her when she does. The league's failure to adequately punish the players who have targeted Clark sends a message that will resonate far beyond this season. The uncertainty in White's voice, the lack of clear information, and the pattern of physical targeting that led to this moment all point to a league that has failed to protect its most valuable asset.
Clark missing significant time. I would assume that the WNBA is still on track to make pesos, which is great. That's great. But if that happens, there's going to be an expectation to maintain it. There will be an expectation to figure out a way to turn this monetized turd into actual dollars. It's kind of hard to do that when the only star in your league is constantly on the bench. And one of the potential reasons that she's constantly on the bench is because of the increased physicality that she's forced to deal with every time she's on the court. We have already seen what happens when Caitlin Clark disappears from the
Clark will recover and hopefully return to full strength as quickly as possible. But until the WNBA demonstrates that it's serious about protecting all players, especially the ones who drive revenue and viewership, fans will continue to question whether this league deserves the talent it's been blessed with. The clock is ticking, and the consequences of continued inaction extend far beyond one player's injury status. The WNBA's future may well depend on how it handles the return of Caitlin Clark, and more importantly, how it ensures that her next injury isn't caused by the same systematic failures that led to this one.